What you been up to?
It's just, I just came back from our trip and yeah, just try to teach a lot.
In piano, it's well, how you chose your piano, but basically how you got started. Is your family musical, and like, how'd that whole thing go?
So for me, nobody's really musical. So when I was like 2 or 3, my parents got me like this, like literally this size, like a tiny keyboard. And
Yeah.
I think my dad brought it back from like I don't know, airplane or something. I don't know if he got it free or not, but so he brought me back the keyboard, and pretty much like instantly I got hooked, and I was just experimenting with piano and sound, and I was a composer when I was little. So
Really?
yeah, so I started to compose and try to play by ear, and yeah, that happened for like a year or two before I started to take lessons.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
since
really cool.
yeah.
Cool. So it was like you never even thought about doing a different instrument. It was,
No, I always knew that I'm gonna do music.
yeah.
I didn't know it was possible as a career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was fascinating that I'm doing this.
Right. Well, what kind of was the turning point for you? Where like I might actually be doing this for a living.
Well, I actually gave up kind of once when I was in still Tokyo. So I didn't go to music school there at all, actually. But yeah, and I started to like wonder what I'm gonna do, and I started to learn English, and okay, I'm gonna go to America to just learn English for 2 years and come back to Japan and find some work. But then
Mhm.
I ended up staying here.
It was, did you meet your husband, or was it just you
Yes,
found
yes,
a community? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I met my husband here, but my first instinct as a little kid when I was 2 or 3, I loved piano and music so much, and I think I came back to that, and this is what I like. I think I found out when I was like 20, 21.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're saying that earlier you were saying that you are mostly solo performing, so you're not accompanying as much
Mhm.
recently.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us, because not everybody quite understands that kind of, dichotomy between soloing and actually accompanying another instrument or person.
How different is you mean?
Yeah, how's it different for you?
I see. It's not a huge different thing, but for solo, of course, we memorize everything, right?
Mm,
So, and then more solo is like more like interaction between the composer and I. That's it, really. And then,
mm,
so when I'm practicing, that's the interaction between me and a composer. But well, of course, when I perform, I feel the audience and the venue and everything. But
uh,
for the chamber music or accompanying, composer and I and the other players, so more people, interacted each other, and conversation. It's more like conversation,
uh,
that we do during rehearsals. Like we talk, we have different ideas, right? Like all the soloists has different ideas. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, but then we have to, somehow agree on one or two things, maybe more or more within the composer's intention. So I think it's like
Right.
a lot of talking, a lot of, listening, conversations, and it's just fun for me, because I'm so used to practicing by myself for hours and hours without talking, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a different fun experience for me, and especially performance too when we breathe together.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm recently getting more into new music. So I'm kind of wondering how much new music have you done, or what's your experience with new music, and what you do classically or traditionally classically?
Yeah, so I was at Sac State, and Sac State has Phenom, which is Festival of New American Music.
Mhm.
So at that time, I entered competition quite a number of times, and I played a lot of. All my friends are not all my, but a lot of my friends are composers, including my husband.
Right.
Yeah, so they often ask me to play their pieces,
Okay, so you have a lot.
recitals. Yeah, I've done quite a few new music when I was in school. And
Okay.
after I graduated, I still know all the teachers there, composition teachers, and some of my friends are still in school, so they often ask me to play their recitals and their pieces still. So
Yeah.
and I really think playing new music is just such an important aspect as a professional musician. It's very challenging, first of all. So
Mhm.
not everyone can play. Say my 8 years old who's just playing piano for 1 year, they can't
Yeah.
really do it because it's really difficult. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a professional and yeah, as a young musician, I think it's very important to explore our own friends' music or not. I think
Yeah.
it's just inspire the community, inspire the people, inspire even us to become a better audience and better musician, I think.
Yeah, better musician is what really clicked for me. Like, because I'm like, what is that? I don't understand. I
Right,
never thought I would get into new music. I mean, I figured I would eventually do it because as a
right.
professional, you're gonna be asked to do a project, and if it's the right project, you're gonna say yes, right?
Yes.
Um, and so that's the way it happened. It was the right project. It was one of the bigger opportunities. It was so good for my voice. Like the music really worked for my voice. And I had to change, my perspective on how I felt about new music. All of a sudden, it became something where I could really put my identity into the music aspect. Really makes me almost more a part of the music because I have to make so many of those choices. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this note is this note because of this, this, and this. I feel like I'm doing more of those
You
musical.
think a lot, because I feel
Yeah,
there are not many recordings available for you because it's new. Sometimes you're premiering, or there may be only one recording that you can
right,
do. So you feel like it's limited in terms of the recording availability. So
right,
you
right.
have to really analyze the music. You have to really understand how it's supposed to sound like, you know? Yeah, so I think you have to.
So that's probably what it is because you have to understand, you know, where they're coming from for the creation of the music. So that's maybe why the connection to the composer thing.
Right. I mean, that we do that for Schumann or other, Beethoven, whatever composer is doing. We try to do it, but we have so many recordings available.
Yeah.
So without really analyzing, we know how we should sound like, kind of, to make it good.
we are allowed, or it creates more assumptions so that you feel like you already know a lot of times, how it's supposed to, or you've had that experience given to you by a really an excellent musician.
Right,
You
right.
already know. You don't have to find out.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like married to a composer, so you're like, I know the whole process. I'm involved.
Yeah.
Well, and you compose yourself. Like, does that help when you are?
Yeah, so when I was little,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
used to compose a lot. So I think that really helps me to understand the structure.
yeah. Mm,
Yeah, really, I think so. And, a lot of pianists are always dealing with more than one note. So
yeah.
we are used to analyze chords in general. But I think, yeah, composing myself really helps me to understand the composition.
That's it. Yeah, and I have had like small bouts. I had a composition class in grad school,
Mhm.
and I was asked by a student to write an opera.
Oh, really?
Oh, it wasn't a full opera, but I did the vocalization, and I kind of co-scripted a composer to
A
help
lot of work.
the orchestration of it.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've had my minor bumps with composition, but what it does is it gives you an appreciation that, you know, what comes to you as a composer doesn't always come to you only on the basis of a chord or of, you know, that kind of already stated
Right.
dogma. You know, it comes to you for other reasons. So, oh, I wanted to know your most memorable performance experiences, whether they be small or large or whatever. Like, what comes to mind?
You know, the most memorable performance, I think it's my Schumann piano concerto that I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so special because, you know, first of all, I was a student at that time, so I had lots of support from my teacher at that time and other teachers.
Yeah,
And well, some all my friends, you know, I knew all the orchestra members first of all, and the
that's amazing.
yeah, and conductor as well, the maestro Leo Eiler. We were good friends, so we knew, you know, each other, and it's just like on stage, I felt this great positive vibe.
Mm.
When I was playing, I was just like, wow, I never felt this, you know, positive vibe from the audience and
Yeah,
from the player, and it was truly the happiest moment of my life. I'm so sad to say this because, you know, that was the only time I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
yeah.
I never felt it since.
Yeah, it's a very it's hard to get, you know.
It's
You would
hard to
think that
get,
it happens
exactly.
all the time,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it
you can't
really
control it.
requires that connection. Like you have to be able to connect with your fellow peoples in
Yes,
order to get that like super like it's like the highest high, right? Like it doesn't get much better than that.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, like, and my biggest experience for me was actually one of my smaller performances, and it was in Greece because
Wow.
we just connected really well, and I don't know how to speak Greek, and they would speak Greek around me all the time, but I still felt super connected to them, and
Wow.
like we would just have like these really amazing musical moments, and it was
Amazing.
just the best experience. And you know, we had a couple concerts, and both of them were just because you feel really supported
Right,
and you
right.
feel like you can really be expressive
Mm-hmm.
because of that support. You don't feel like judged all the time. You feel like you'll be supported regardless of what happens. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's
That's
really
special.
hard to recreate. You know.
Yes. Yeah, you can't recreate that. You know, that's so true though. You know, the support and connections, like who you play with.
Yeah.
When you play chamber music, I feel like, oh, I played this piece before with somebody else, but it sounds so different when I play with this people, like new people.
Yeah.
I feel different when I'm playing. You know, it's
Right.
a piece, but feeling of it is so different depending on who you're playing with, where you're playing at, you know.
Yeah, and the space. I think people don't realize like how impactful the actual space is
Yeah,
on music.
yeah.
That's why I'm really excited that we're rehearsing in the space for
Yes.
all our rehearsals. Let's talk about this particular song cycle. So this song cycle is interesting because it's comedic and it's and yet at the same time, to me, it's very sophisticated as far as musically. So, what are your unique experiences for this particular song cycle?
You know, it's just like for me, you know, I don't really accompany anymore. So when I look at the words, and especially in English, I understand, right? it's really fun to just read the lyrics first, you
Yeah,
know,
it
get the
is.
feeling of the piece. So that was, oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun. And I play, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how it's gonna sound like. And I just play my part, you know. And after that, I play your part and try to sing, you know, together.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is so fun. You know, the lyrics and the music just like blends in so well. You know, it's like a
It's
ramen
really.
noodle, like the soup and noodle and an ingredient. You know, it just blends perfectly, you know. And
um,
I think that third movement when I tap piano like this.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting, you know, like I have to have nail, like I have to throw my nail, you know, otherwise it will make sound.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like really impressed with
yeah,
the
so
tapping skills.
it's,
But yeah,
yeah,
it's
but you
cool.
know, it's the fifth movement. There's a counterpoint in the middle, so it's really challenging to play.
Yeah.
Aspect too, this piece has lots characters to it, you know, it's just so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of knew when I was reading through, because I actually got not several, but quite a few pieces from a couple different composers, and I was kind of deciding what kind of recital I was going to do this summer. And I got to this one, and I'm like, I'm not. I mean, I typically I'm like Brahms. I'm like,
Mhm.
Verdi. I'm like, long lines and just,
Yeah.
to take my time
Uh-huh.
majority of the time. But so when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, this is really cute. I really liked it. And then I was like, well, let me think, because I'm not typically a fast singer, right? So I'm like, let me think about it. But then the more I sang it, the more it fit. It just fit,
Nice.
and I'm just like, I have never felt so like almost effortlessly. I mean,
Huh.
I do a lot of vocal movement pretty easily, but it's always with intention. Like, and here I felt like the actual lyrics and everything, and just having the fun of the music really just vocally inspired me, where I just didn't even have to think about a lot of the technical aspects when I was first running through it.
That's
Um, it's really cool because that's not the hard part for me. The hard part is more kind of the joining of
I
everything.
see, I see, I see.
Hearing the piano, and knowing my place within that, the texture, and still the independent thoughts, because he's like, I mean, a lot of the music is surprisingly uh, so characteristic. It's like, as you can hear the personality of the
Mm-hmm.
person within the note framework. So it's amazing to me how that all comes together. He's kind of young, considering,
Right. Yeah.
considering the level of the music.
Yeah.
He has one of his operas is being recorded this summer, and it'll be released by Noxus America next year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, like, the reason I bring all that up is because I'm wondering, like, how might your connection to like this composer vary from you've obviously worked with a lot of them, so
Mhm.
how might it vary as far as your connection to the music, or
Hmm.
um,
Interesting. Yeah, I know what you're saying. How so I think this is my first new music
mhm,
recently that I play, which is a voice and piano written for voice and piano.
mhm,
So it's very different because the way I understand music normally, which is just instrumental piece or solo piano. We don't have lyrics, right?
right,
So sometimes, there is a programmatic title of the piece, so we get the feeling of it. or I can talk to the composers about the piece. But this is very direct, because
Right.
yeah, so this is, the biggest difference for me, that I know the piece is about through the lyrics.
Yes.
That was like the main thing that I feel like very fresh, and piano writing is a little, his personality comes through in the piano writing as well. So it's always different. It's always different, depending on the composer, the piano writing. I think it depends on the pianist also. But his writing, personally, I feel like it's thinner side. It's not like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah.
Right. So it's more like and more counterpoint going on. So you really have to understand all the lines, all the shapes.
Right.
And
where that's coming from into
your part, like my right hand, my left hand, your voice. I mean, everything's like this.
Part of it.
Yeah. So we have to make a good ramen noodle there.
Yes.
So it's different, and really, I'm enjoying this process right
now. Performance.
Again, this is more accessible side of new music, I feel like, because it's in English. We're in America. Most people understand music in English. So I feel like this can be, just the first experience for a lot of audience to really enjoy what new music is. And I hope we can inspire people to listen to more new music, classical music, because this is, again, accessible music, through your voice, singing, and kind of fun story, and so so just hope that we can help people to
connect to new music.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of the things that, again, drew me. I was like, well, it's going to be the summer. You don't have to get too serious about it. I was like, it can be fun, that was one of the things. I was like, well, I want to do a concert, but I don't want to get bogged down by all these things. At first it was going to be like, another singer and so I didn't even have to learn that much music, but I was like, well, this might be more work, but it'll be fun. Like, people will really be able to connect to it. I can really enjoy, playing with my audience with this music and really, inviting them to the story, and so I think it's going to be really cool to have just people just really, for the first time, maybe, like you said, it'll be good for first timers, because for maybe the first time, people will really feel like a part of what's going on. Thank you so much for doing the interview with me, and I really appreciate it, because I feel like people will be able to find out more about you and more about our nerdy process.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, people can connect to the performance more.